What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, where on this edition we're going to be struggling to talk about Survivor Series 2021. We're doing our preview, predictions, everything building up to the event. The one night of the year where the champions of Raw and Smackdown go directly head-to-head in competition. I'm your host, as I have been for the past couple of weeks, Callum Wiggins, and joining me, as per usual, to struggle alongside me is Robert DeFelice.
I gotta say, I loved your specification of it's the one night a year that champions go head to head, and I appreciate you getting so specific with that. I gotta say, Tony Mango wins, right? Like, he's over in Brazil. Dude just got married to a gorgeous woman two times over, and he's having fun in Brazil, and we're like, I guess we gotta talk about Survivor Series.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say we had last week. We got to talk about Full Gear, an event we were pretty excited about, and did a show review as well. And it was a very good show and it's fun. I think we can safely say, and I think we've referred to this multiple times, we don't want to belabor the point too much, but this might not even be the worst build to a Survivor Series of all time. This might be the worst build to a pay-per-view in WWE history.
I definitely think there's been shorter notice stuff, but this is the worst major pay-per-view. It's a major pay-per-view in a major market. They're in New York City, and they've got nothing. Something feels off there to me. They've got absolutely nothing.
So we may not be feeling this show too much, but what we do feel is you guys hitting that like button, hitting the subscribe button down below, dropping a comment below, telling us your thoughts about the show, or if you don't really want to talk about the show either alongside us, then tell us what your favourite sandwich is or something like that. Just drop that stuff below. Any sort of conversation, anything to steer the direction away from this as we go on and talk about it. Of course, that's one way you can support us. Another way to support us is monetarily, pay us to get through this drabness by over on the Patreon, patreon.com/smarkoutmoments. Anything from $1 a month is greatly appreciated and goes a long way to keeping the lights on and keep things running as smoothly as they do over here. There's the different tiers as well. So the $10 tier gives you access to the Darkcast, a few extra episodes that we throw on there every now and again, as well as the $50 tier, the Pick Your Poison. Tell us to do something which isn't review Survivor Series or predict Survivor Series 2021. Anything at this point must be an upgrade. But we'll dig into a few more plugs as the show goes along. But we might as well try and wrap things up pretty quickly here. Bish bash bosh. Let's move on. So every single match, of course, as it is Survivor Series, is Raw versus SmackDown. In most cases, champion versus champion. Let's start with the most inconsequential of the champion versus champion matches. Damian Priest, United States champion, taking on Shinsuke Nakamura, the Intercontinental champion. Who cares, right?
I think that this has legitimately the ability to be one of the only fun matches on the show if they give them time. But it really does boil down to who cares. I mean, obviously Priest is going to win. He's my front runner to win the Royal Rumble right now. And Shinsuke Nakamura just lost to Angel and Humberto. So what does that say?
Yeah. So I think Shinsuke Nakamura, I don't believe has had a victory since August. Maybe September. I'm trying to remember this exactly. I might just dig up a cage match quickly and just have a look at that. But I know he's on a losing streak. And Damian Priest is heavily protected. He hasn't lost a singles match since he's joined the main roster. So he's someone who's actually consistently booked well. So I don't envision this being bucking the trend too much. I think it's going to be Priest gets the victory. I think the only thing that we can really discuss about this, which is slightly different, is Shinsuke Nakamura going to be the Intercontinental Champion going into Survivor Series?
Yeah.
Because we're obviously recording this prior to SmackDown, we won't have a chance to do the predictions after SmackDown. There are a few things that are a bit up in the air that we would like to have known, but WWE being WWE has kept some things right until the very end. And yeah, there is a real possibility that Shinsuke Nakamura will be asked to defend the Intercontinental Championship on the final SmackDown before Survivor Series.
And God knows, the theme of this pay-per-view is, yeah, you don't know what's gonna happen, and neither do we. Like, they announced everything on Twitter, and they keep changing everything. So I guess this is one of those ones where they're just like, it'll be exciting because you never know. Fine. I think if you do Priest and Nakamura, Priest wins. I think if you do Priest and Angel or Humberto or Madcap Moss or Happy Corbin, Priest wins because Priest is getting the biggest push of anybody, including the current WWE champion, on today's WWE roster.
Yeah, so I just double checked. Shinsuke Nakamura's last victory on television was he defended the Intercontinental Championship against Apollo Crews on the September 24th edition of SmackDown. Since then, he has lost to Roman Reigns, a tribute to the troops. He's lost to Happy Corbin. He's lost to Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss, and now he's lost to Los Lotharios. So yeah, we'll just wait and see. But yeah, if it is Shinsuke Nakamura against Damian Priest, or basically anybody against Damian Priest, I think it's safe to say Raw's getting on the board with that one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it might be the only time they get on the board. You know?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a few more of them. So we've got the Raw tag team champions, RK Bro, taking on the Usos, the SmackDown tag team champions. This one is I think this one at least is interesting in the sense that the match itself will be probably pretty good.
This one's interesting in the sense that Randy Orton is a tag team representative on a throwaway Survivor Series. Any other time, you'd say, well, Randy Orton's on the other side. The Usos are a generic tag team. Randy and Riddle have to win, but it's still the Usos. And the Usos right now mean so much because they're packaged with the most protected wrestler in WWE. So I'm going to go Usos, but I think it's going to be a really fun match. Like, this should be the one that steals it, honestly.
Yeah, so the story they're telling, at least on the Raw side of things right now, is that Riddle is picking fights with people and he's losing matches pretty consistently at this point in time. And Randy Orton is berating him about his relationship with the Street Profits and not taking things seriously enough. So this could be another way to build upon that story by having the Usos get the victory, have Riddle take the pin, and it should further what we believe to be the story here, which is that by WrestleMania, Randy Orton and Riddle.
Oh, they're gonna fight at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I mean, do you see this ending before or at the Royal Rumble when one eliminates the other?
I think that will be the catalyst. I think there'll still be champions going into the Royal Rumble, but I feel like that'll be the thing of like, hey, you eliminated me, and like, oh yeah, bro, that's the point of the match. You told me to have a bit more of a killer instinct, and then Orton doesn't like it, and then that leads to them losing the titles and Orton attacking him, and yeah, I can see that
match on like the first night of WrestleMania. Because oh, by the way, you did that wonderful intro. I noticed that they're referring to WrestleMania this year as the most stellar 2-night WrestleMania of all time, and I'm like I only did one.
So someone said the word stellar in a creative meeting with Vince McMahon. Now that's the one word that Vince loves more than anything else right now.
I can't. At this point, I think Vince has his headphones on and he's listening to AC/DC, and somebody else is doing this stuff because this is just off the wall. But yeah, I think Usos get the win here. They're the stronger team, and they probably need it more.
I would have thought that. I mean, again, it's more of a coin flip for me in this one, just because a lot of these matches are. I'm personally going to go with RK Bro to get the victory, just because I feel they're going to want to protect Randy and give Randy the victory in this one. So yeah, that's the only argument I have. There's really no reason one way or the other. I feel like it makes more sense story-wise to have the Usos win because it furthers the RK Bro tensions, when has ever good storytelling ever prevented WWE from doing something? So
that is true.
So I'm just going bigger name. Who's the biggest name in this match? Randy Orton. Randy Orton wins. That kind of thing.
That's a good theory at this point because Randy's the biggest name, and it's getting real scarce, man. It's getting real scarce, and I know like Randy's had his time; it's come and gone. But you look at Randy and you still go, he's a main event guy, you know, and it's real scarce.
Well, speaking of main event guys, because I feel like we should actually talk about the women's match not last, but like the last of the champion versus champions, because that's the one that has the most intrigue surrounding it. So let's talk about WWE Champion Big E against Universal Champion Roman Reigns.
I like that you haven't touched upon the throwaway 5-on-5s yet.
Well, I mean that's what Survivor Series is built around, so it's
that is fair.
And there's also some speculations around that, and there might be a bit more intrigue because there's 10 people involved.
Whereas here it's literally, well, Roman Reigns has to run through Big E Langston, and God bless him for taking the final show and just saying, "Hey, Big E, why don't you get serious and beat the shit out of Jimmy Uso?" And it was great. And yes, I agree. You shouldn't have to change who you are and become this bland. You shouldn't have to do what Triple H did in '99 in order to be taken seriously all the time. But Big E is a huge man who does have that Hulk Hogan build to him that can be that top star. He's got to start showing that aggressive side. And he finally did last night. And I love it. Except it's Roman Reigns. And if Roman Reigns came in and just beat the shit out of him with no fire back whatsoever, I'd still be like, yeah, because it's Roman Reigns. It's Roman Reigns. Like, that's the shitty thing about Roman right now. There's no debate. There's zero debate because, yes, you can tell a story that if Big E Langston can possibly defeat Roman Reigns, he's a made man. But also, there's no way in hell that's happening because we need Roman at least protected for Lesnar, if nothing else, if they don't have anything greater. Now, this is the match where I think this might close the show because there is no Undertaker farewell this year. And somebody has to confront Roman. And I know they've been doing that a little bit too much. I know they ended Money in the Bank that way and SummerSlam that way. But somebody has to, like, do something because this show has no fanfare. It's got to be like they're in Brooklyn, The Rock's music hits, and he stares down Roman. And I don't even think they're going to WrestleMania, quite frankly, with him and The Rock. But you got to do something. Even if it's The Undertaker. Even if it's bong, lights out, lights on. Oh, Undertaker choke slammed Roman Reigns because he decided after watching that documentary that he just can't live with himself and that being his only match. Like, something has to happen because this show's got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're a lot more confident than I am about something.
Oh, I didn't say confident. I'm just blind wishful thinking is what's happening here.
Yeah, I can't even bring myself into that spectrum because realistically, this match is a bad match to happen because not to say the two guys involved are great, and I'm sure the match will be very good, but it's a case of Big E's only recently become WWE champion, and he's already found himself in battling mid-card guys over the title. And
Otis, for some reason, has a pair of balls now, and he wants to challenge WWE. It's very weird, man.
Whereas Roman is undefeated for the most part. He rarely loses, and he's going to be built up for probably the main event of WrestleMania and basically every other WrestleMania going forward. So it doesn't make sense for him to lose, but having Big E lose just immediately says, okay, you're the number 2 champion in this company.
And they're saying it's been nearly 2 years since he's even lost a match. And it's like, and now it's got to be somebody big. And pardon the pun, I don't think E is that big man.
No, I mean, as you said, the argument is that if Big E beats Roman, then he establishes, okay, I'm on the same pecking order as Roman. And that's for me, that's the only benefit that could come from this is having Big E beat Roman, because even though I agree with you that Roman shouldn't be losing, Like, Big E definitely shouldn't be losing.
He needs it, but he needs it. Like, Roman can get distracted by Woods.
Yeah, that was my thing. Of like, you talk about someone who'd come in and distracted and think, oh, maybe it's the Rock or Undertaker comes in towards the end. But I'm thinking, well, you're building this thing up with Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods has an inbuilt relationship with Big E. He comes down because it's a Roman Reigns match. So there's going to be bets, shenanigans. The referee's going to go down at some point. The Usos are going to get involved. All of this stuff. So to have Woods and Kofi. I mean, Kofi's injured at the moment, but have Woods come in, clean house, distract Roman. Big E just hits a flash big ending, gets the victory. Roman doesn't look significantly worse because he suffered a load of shenanigans around it. And Big E gets a big win over the other world champion. That helps him out. That establishes him a bit more. And it leads into a natural feud between Woods and Reigns over the championship, because technically, I know it was a disqualification, but Xavier Woods did beat Roman Reigns on SmackDown.
Yeah. And we talked about this in the hot tags, but I almost think that was a little too much for Woods. But again, it's that double-edged sword of you need new people. If they did that, I'd probably come on the review show with you and say, yep, that was the right call, because that's what they need to do. Just because, fine, let Big E win. Because right now, he feels like if he loses that belt at the Royal Rumble, I wouldn't be surprised if he never gets it again. And that's a shitty thing to say, but it really feels like they're just letting it play itself out, and it'll be forgetful.
So I'm still gonna back the Roman Reigns horse on this one, because it just seems like the most the way that WWE would go about things. I think Big E makes more sense, but at the end of the day, you don't bet against Roman Reigns winning a match. So
if they give Big E this win, even if it's by ultimate shenanigans, if they give Big E this win, that's good, because you at least know that means they care enough about E to know that he needed to win this. I don't see it happening though. It's not going to go Roman Reigns.
And that leads to the final singles champion versus champion match. It's Becky Lynch, the Raw Women's Champion, taking on Charlotte Flair, the SmackDown Women's Champion. And this match is slightly more intriguing just due to the fact that they have decided to steer away from the brand supremacy angle of this and focus on the real life animosity between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. So,
it's weird. I also think that they could be focusing more on the real life tension between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Of course, it's hard when you're on different shows, but I think Becky said in interviews, and Charlotte has said, what brand supremacy? We were, we work for the same company. We were just on the other show. It's hard to build a show around brand supremacy, so let's build it around the fact that we don't like each other. And you gotta hope, because I know a lot of people are sick of this match, but it's been quite a long time since we've seen it, and they are good when they get together. So you gotta hope that this is like a bit of a classic with that thrown in twinge of, oh, and they really don't like each other. So if you land a stiff shot or two, people are like, oh man, that was a shoot. You can easily work the people here, and I hope they do it.
Yeah, that is the most interesting aspect, is the fact that, I mean, I'm going to lean a little bit on Becky Lynch's comments recently on the it was on the SI podcast, I think. Yeah, where she talks about the fact that she doesn't trust Charlotte Flair at the moment, and she goes on a long diatribe about how the art of professional wrestling is built around the fact that you're supposed to have trust with someone else, and it's a working partnership. And then she just goes and says, yeah, I don't trust Charlotte Flair, which makes me believe that they're trying to build this match on the premise of they might shoot on each other during the match. And to me, it's a dangerous recipe, because they did that a couple of months ago with Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax after their in-ring issues, and then they just decided, oh, we're going to build a rematch, and then we're going to try and have a match. And Charlotte has done this in the past as well. I can't remember the match specifically, but I believe she has done matches where she wants to go a bit off-piste and try and make it seem like they're having a real fight within the match. And I can see them doing that approach with this one. I just don't know whether that's going to make the quality of the match any better than.
Was it the one with Ronda?
It might have been with Ronda. It might have been. I think she had a match with Lacey Evans at one point, which went a bit like awry in this way as well.
Because the Nia Jax thing did as well.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like a Charlotte Flair thing of like, hey, let's kind of hit each other real stiff for a second, make people think that this is real, you know?
Yeah, so I imagine they will do that, and I imagine they're both professionals, so I imagine that they'll both go. They won't stray beyond bounds, although it would be hilarious if they did, to a degree. But the big issue with these two is the fact of crowd alignment as well. They're both portraying heels at the moment. The crowd will almost certainly be in Becky's corner because Charlotte is persona non grata both in front of the crowd and behind the scenes, it seems like, as well. And yeah, I think that the crowd will just naturally lean towards Becky as a babyface, but she's not portraying a babyface mainly on the Raw side of things, so it's an interesting dynamic to go heel.
Yeah, so bear with me if you will on this one. Survivor Series is the one night a year where Raw and SmackDown fight. And they've shown this year that even if it makes absolutely no sense to do that, they're just going to do that because that's the marketing. Therefore, I think you should build every weekly show with the knowledge of, and in November, there is this. Now, I like the idea of Becky versus Charlotte. I don't understand why it's this version of Becky Lynch against Charlotte Flair.
Mm-hmm.
Becky right now is becoming a caricature, much like Seth Rollins. She should just be the man. She wasn't even around long enough for people to get sick of the man shtick. She just came back and it was immediately a caricature. I really think they need to start pre-planning better, especially for stuff like this.
You don't say.
But of course, but like this in particular, it's written in your marketing. Like, just build it right. And Becky, I think, needs to kind of go into this one as the man and be the hero that she said she was in that SI Media podcast, where she said, I don't mind being that hero. Also, piggybacking off of that, Charlotte Flair did an interview recently, I think it was with BT Sport, where she said, if I was a man, I wouldn't be called hard to deal with. Becky Lynch, in an interview, fired back with, gender ain't got nothing to do with it. Like, so maybe Charlotte Flair is just a bitch behind the scenes. Like, you don't know. And for me, that is why this is the match to watch.
Yeah, so, and there's also the added aspects of the fact that they both have people gunning for both of their titles right now. Obviously, Becky Lynch still has animosities with Bianca Belair, but Liv Morgan is now the new number one contender, so there's a chance that she could get involved. Charlotte Flair has had issues both with Sasha Banks and with Toni Storm recently, so there's chances that they could get involved. So
I would be honest, that would be one of the weakest things you could do. If it just breaks down into, and here comes Liv Morgan, oh, and here comes Sasha Banks. I think that would be a cop-out. I think somebody has to win. And I think because I can damn sure see Charlotte Flair pinning Becky Lynch more than I could see Becky Lynch pinning Charlotte Flair, I think Charlotte's going to squeak by with a victory.
Yeah, I agree with you that I feel like it would be a weak way of doing it, but I just think that that's what they're going to do in order to try and keep both people strong. So my inclination is that Charlotte Flair will get the victory, and it will be because Liv Morgan distracts Becky Lynch. That is just, again, it's a sucky way of ending it, but that's just the way that I feel like they're going to go, because that's what they do when it's champion versus champion, especially two champions that they actually protect quite heavily. Is that there's three ways I see this going. It's either Charlotte Flair gets the victory due to a Liv Morgan distraction, Becky Lynch gets the victory because of a Toni Storm or Sasha Banks distraction, or it goes to a double DQ or something.
So over the past several years they've done this, right? Because 2016, it was Flair and Alexa, right?
Yeah.
2017 was it Flair again? I don't remember who was.
I mean, Flair's pretty much a constant in it, isn't it? I think. Let me remember. So I believe I'll go through the Survivor Series chronology. So last year was Sasha and Asuka, so that's not doesn't involve them.
It's not too bad.
Previous year was the triple threat match: Shayna Baszler, Becky Lynch, and Bayley.
Right, that was a good one. Well, that was a good concept.
Yeah, bad match.
Yeah. I don't think they did one in 2016. I think that might be what happened.
Previous one, what was that? So this is 2018 was. Well, let me have a look.
Yeah, they didn't do it in 2016. They did
they were meant to do in 2018. They were meant to do Ronda versus Becky, but Becky was injured, so they did Ronda versus Charlotte instead.
Right. So mostly all the years have featured Charlotte and or Becky. So
yeah,
that's cool that they're getting to fight here. But look at the match they did with Ronda, where hey, we're just gonna have Charlotte hit her with a kendo stick and do this whole thing where she's standing up for wrestling, and that did not work out the way they thought it would. But I think it would be weak. I just think it would be weak if they did.
Oh, it would absolutely be weak. But there's also the consideration here that there are 6 matches currently listed, and you're going to want to have one side get the victory over the other, most likely. So a good way to do that is we're going to drop it down to 5 by having this match go to a no contest. And that means there's only 5 legitimate results.
Yeah.
You could do that. That's fair. I mean, there are 2 ways of doing that. You either do that or you just add a 7th match that's just a nothing happening match on the kickoff show between, I don't know, AJ and Omos versus who's a SmackDown tag team? The New Day. No, New Day are injured. Who is actually a SmackDown tag team?
I guess Los Lotharios.
Yeah, Los Lotharios. And you just have AJ and Omos win or something. But yeah, as it stands right now, because of the even number, then they could do something with just having one match go to a double DQ or a double count out or something. And this match could be the one to do it, because they could just start quote unquote shooting on each other, and that leads to the match being thrown out.
If you do it like that, I'm okay with the match being thrown out. If you make it look like, okay, this has gotten too out of hand, I'm okay with that, rather than, okay, now everybody's going to get involved.
So let's talk about the both the Team Raw and Team SmackDown traditional Survivor Series matches, which we can't really go into complete detail on, because at least on the SmackDown side, both teams are missing a member. But let's talk about the journey that we've got here as well. So start with the women's match. Team Raw, represented by Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Carmella, and Queen Zelina, will take on Team SmackDown, represented by Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler, Shotzi, Natalya, and someone to be announced. It was originally Aaliyah, but Sonya Deville took her out of the match the previous week. So, first question, who is going to be the 5th member of Team SmackDown?
It has to be Sonya Deville, right? Like, that has to be where we're going here.
Well, let's just have...
Okay, so who else could it be? Because
let's have a look at the SmackDown women's roster quickly, just to get a sense of what we're working with. So Aaliyah's obviously been taken out. Naomi won't be in it because she's got a fractious relationship with Sonya Deville. We are then left with the only people remaining that aren't currently in a match or aren't already in that match are Toni Storm and Xia Li, and of course Sonya Deville, but she's not listed as a wrestler at the moment.
So what you do is you make it look like it's going to be Naomi, and then Sonya announces herself. That would be it's paint by numbers shit, but at the very least, that means a little bit more than, and here's Xia Li.
I mean, what do you think of the possibility of someone from NXT being called up to take that place?
It would depend on the person. I would not mind Sonya Deville calling on her friend Mandy Rose, who's currently the NXT champion.
Yeah, as a one-off thing, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind that as much.
yeah,
I
that'd be
don't
alright.
see EO getting called up,
No,
right?
Raquel
Elect
potentially.
oh, Raquel would be a good one. Raquel would be a good one because they could just smash her over again with the Diesel comparisons, but they could just have her eliminate everybody.
I mean,
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you are the main chick on SmackDown.
I think that the most logical one and the one that will most likely happen is that, as you said, Sonya will take the fifth role, and we'll start to we're going to see the resumption of her in-ring career. But I don't think that she's actually going to be super involved in this match, because I imagine that she'll take it, and then Naomi will get involved at some point, help her get eliminated, and then they'll brawl to the back or something, if that's the case.
I just hope that this leads to something happening where, all right, let's say we're the McMahons and we're gonna take over these shows again, and we decided we have to officially assign new general managers, because you know what I've learned at this point, it needs to just be there are warring general managers to make something like Survivor Series work, because Adam Pearce randomly saying he wants Raw to win and then just obliterating both teams is just super weird. It's just weird.
Mm.
Like, I don't know any kind of story they're trying to tell, but I'm hoping that the fact that both Adam and Sonya are heels will lead to somebody stepping in and saying, let's just do general managers again. And the SmackDown GM can be Paul Heyman, and the Raw one can be Adam Pearce, right? Like, just something like that.
I mean, I'm just super over the whole heel authority figure trope, and I'm wondering whether they're doing this right now so that in 6 months' time, the McMahons can all come out and say, "We've heard you about the heel authority figures, and we'll never do that again because you're the authority," and just retread that old chestnut again. But I feel it's definitely not helping, and it's making it even more dire to watch both shows, to see the fact that, oh yeah, we're back to the heel authority guys and screwing over the baby faces and making it even more despondent to watch. I
And
mean,
mostly because it's coming out of nowhere.
yeah, because Pierce
Like,
has turned heel off the back of being attacked by Brock Lesnar.
but Adam Pearce was a babyface earlier this year, and people were stoked that he might wrestle Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. And now it's like, hey, Big E, if you interfere in this match, I've got 2 words for you, Brock Lesnar, which I don't know what that meant.
Well, I
You know,
assume he meant that he'll
he
give
would
him the
find
same
him like
punishment that,
Lesnar.
yeah, he'll give him the same
Or,
punishment that Lesnar
I
got.
mean, honestly, if you want to be funny about it, you can even say, what does that mean if he crosses you, you're just going to sick Brock Lesnar on him? Like, where is this coming from with Pierce, and why is it happening now? I want them to get a better hold on things, because it's just been the most disorganized I've ever seen it. Like, it's one thing a couple of years ago when it was the, Baron Corbin stuff. That was frustrating, but at least it felt like, okay, they know what they're doing. This just feels like, I don't know. We have a show to fill. Let's fill it.
Yeah. And so the actual match itself, interesting dynamics are obviously usually found within the teams itself and the feuds between them. So Sasha and Shotzi have been feuding. Shayna Baszler's been doing Sonya Deville's dirty work. You have Bianca on the Raw side leading it, and you have Liv Morgan, number one contender. You have Rhea Ripley, who's been feuding alongside Nikki Ash against Carmella and Queen Zelina. So there'll be some animosity there. I think the thing that most people will be intrigued about this one is finally seeing Sasha and Bianca locking up for the first time. Well, technically they had a match on Smackdown as well, but like the first time on pay-per-view since WrestleMania.
Since WrestleMania. And they're both baby faces now, so it'll be like they'll do the classic chain exchanges and show respect, and
I
then
guess so.
kind of bow out.
Like, there's no reason not Bianca. There's no reason. I think they're both of them. They're both doing things at the moment which making them dislikable to me. With Bianca feuding with Doudrop when Doudrop is completely in the right, and Sasha Banks feuding with Shotzi when Shotzi was right that Sasha cost her match against Charlotte.
And
like,
Shotzi was also right to say, even though I hate that they turned her heel, she's in the right to say, yeah, and I beat the tag team champions 3 times, and my partner and I never got a shot, and then you split us. Like, they do these things where they go, oh, well, we're giving you what you want because they're acknowledging it. And it's like, yeah, but you're just setting them up to lose. Honestly, one of the most unique things on this show is that Nikki Ash, who I really bet they wish they would have just kept Nikki Cross, isn't on the show. And to me, that is very indicative of not only what they think of the women's tag titles, but what they think of her. Because how are you going to tell me that you don't at least have, hey, the tag team champions are on the team? That's it.
Yeah, again, it's completely nonsensical. It's like they pulled the names out of the hat pretty much to a
Now,
degree.
do they do that where you go, legally, the women's tag team champions can be on both shows? Do you put Nikki Ash on Team Smackdown?
No, I mean, that's I don't know where the technicalities really extend on there. I know they can appear on both shows, but I believe she's technically part of the Raw brand. So, but again, that could be that would be the only interesting way that they could go, really, of like, oh, I didn't see that coming, and it makes kind of sense. But I imagine that the way this is going to go, I think that Liv Morgan has to be the one to be a sole survivor in this. Just because she's the one that's most closely associated with closely linked to an upcoming match for the championship. Because Sasha isn't a number 1 contender. Nobody on the SmackDown team is a number 1 contender to Charlotte Flair's title as of yet. So to help build Liv Morgan up, giving her a victory in this would make the most sense to me.
Yeah, I think it'll be at least. I don't think she'll be a sole survivor. I think she'll survive with Bianca.
It makes better sense that. Well, I think that Bianca's getting taken out by Doudrop.
Well, Doudrop was kind enough to say, I'll be waiting for you after Survivor Series. Maybe she sticks to her word. Who knows?
Or maybe she's lying like Kevin Owens' new version of a heel does. So, but
somebody. Well, I'll tell you when we get to the men's tag match. But the expectations that people set for this company are so low that even I'm finding myself like, can we hold them to any standard?
Yeah, so we've got my prediction is that Team Raw will win, and I agree with you. I think they won't give Liv Morgan like they might give Liv. I think Bianca is getting taken out by Doudrop, and I think that Raw will win with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley surviving, because I think they still have plans with Ripley and the title picture going forward past Liv Morgan, and so I think Ripley against Lynch is something they'll want to do. And that means that obviously all teams back then will be eliminated. So yeah, I'm going Team Raw, Liv and Rhea to survive.
I'm specifically going to say Liv and Bianca or Liv and Zelina, but I think they're definitely having more than one woman survive. Honestly, I can see everybody on that team surviving except Carmella right now.
Yep, so that's that. We'll see how that one goes, and let's talk about the final match that's currently announced, the men's elimination match. Team Raw, represented by Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley, and Austin Theory, taking on Team SmackDown, Drew McIntyre, Jeff Hardy, King Woods, Happy Corbin, and someone to be announced after Sami Zayn was took himself pretty much out of it by suffering a loss to Jeff Hardy on last week's SmackDown. Team Raw has obviously changed significantly. Yeah, twice. Bobby Lashley replacing Dominic Mysterio, and then Austin Theory replacing Rey Mysterio. So there's a few things to talk about here. First of all, why does Adam Pearce want Raw to win so badly?
Well, okay, here's where I gotta bring this up. Somebody on Twitter, I had mentioned just casually, just because it stuck in my craw a little bit, that Adam Pearce last week was harping on, you gotta be a WWE champion, and then you replace Rey Mysterio with Austin Theory, who's never held any title, let alone a single.
He likes the cut of his jib.
He does like the cut of his jib. It's really ridiculous. And somebody told me, "Oh wow, a heel lied," and I'm like, "Oh no, no, no! You're giving them way too much credit. They didn't think that far. They're just going with Adam Pearce as a villain for some reason.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
somebody saw his heel promo from his time as a wrestler and were like, hey, do that."
I think it's like it's interesting because he's obviously decided, okay, like Austin Theory, even though it doesn't fit the criteria that I said beforehand, it's like, I almost feel like anybody who would have just gotten in the ring at that moment in time, just like, I don't know, Veer turns up and he's like, this is his debut, he just pushes Don Mysterio over and says, hey, I like that guy. That guy just got in the ring and did something. He's the guy for this team. Fucking Hornswoggle gets in the ring and trips over somebody. He's just like, hey, I like the cut of your jib, Hornswoggle. just anybody could have dived in the ring at that point. But yeah, I feel it's Austin Theory is an interesting one just because he's fresh face. He's a new, then obviously try and build up someone a bit on the younger side. Maybe someone they do see potential winners, maybe a future United States champion in a little while. I think he's eating a pin here, but at least it gives him the rub of being, hey, I'm involved with these big names, these former champions, and yeah, so that's one benefit to this. Also on the Raw side, Kevin Owens has recently turned heel, which means there's actually 4 heels on the Raw side, with just Finn Balor carrying the sole babyface banner. Do you think Kevin Owens is full-blown heel?
Yeah, I think he is. I think it's nice. He's very good at it. He loses a step as a babyface, even though I think the babyface they try to make him works for him. He loses a step because nobody wants to see him just do stunners. And I hope honestly when he goes to AEW, because he probably will, he doesn't do stunners, because stunners just shouldn't be done. Like, that's one of those moves that just like, leave that alone. Austin did that. Nobody's ever going to do it better. Let him have that. And I think
he can trade the stunner for the package pile drive.
That's true. And I think Owens as a heel, it definitely works. That's my favorite thing Big E is doing right now, is the actual stuff he's doing with Rollins and Owens, because I like when there's an actual desire on the show to be world champion. Imagine that. Where it's not like, oh, we're actually feuding because you accidentally looked at my girlfriend the wrong way. It's like, okay, we're feuding because we want to be champion. I enjoy that. I enjoy Owens. This is another one where I would assume Raw has to win, because for some reason all of the stakes are on Raw winning, and Adam Pearce really wants Raw to win. I gotta assume it'll be Owens and Rollins, and actually I'll say Owens, Rollins, and Lashley, because nobody should beat Lashley.
So I think that even though Raw has the more interesting dynamics going on, my 100% belief is this is the vehicle to get Drew McIntyre into the WWE, into the Universal Championship picture. Because Drew McIntyre's leading Team Smackdown, all he's doing at the moment is going through pretty meaningless open challenge matches. You have him win here, and then he's fast-tracked to being the number one contender, whether it's at day one or going forward, like Royal Rumble time, that sort of thing. You need to have Drew McIntyre be built as strong as possible, because there needs to be at least a shred of people's thoughts and ideas that he might defeat Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. And in order for that to happen, he needs to get big victories, and this is probably the biggest victory that he could get at this time of the year. So I'm saying that Drew McIntyre will be the sole survivor for Team SmackDown. They'll defeat Team Raw. I have no. Who do you think the extra man will be for SmackDown? So I've heard some theories, but obviously not like scoops. So I'm obviously not any sort of backstage links, but I have some ideas.
It really should be something interesting. Like, Von Wagner's here.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I've heard people mentioning that one. It's just like no,
Von
don't
Wagner
do it.
is here. I mean, even if he's an inside agent for Adam Pearce who's desperate for Raw to win, do that. but don't make it like, who's it gonna be? There will be a triple threat between Sheamus, Cesaro, and fill in the blank.
Riddick Moss.
Yeah, Riddick
Not Riddick Moss, not Riddick Moss. The fucking Ridge Holland. I always do that. Ridge Holland.
I mean, either way, it wouldn't have mattered. And
I know.
Holland might get in there just to have a young guy on there, or maybe it'll just be Sheamus.
All right. Well, let's have a look down the SmackDown roster and just see what we think the likelihood is of certain people. So these are the people that aren't on the card that are listed on the SmackDown roster. So we have Angel and Humberto. Yeah, neither of them obviously will get in on their own. Got the members of Hit Row.
Yeah, I thought about it briefly, but nah.
I think the only one that would do it, and the one that should get into it would be Isaiah, but the one that would get into Vince McMahon SmackDown would be Top Dollar. So, but I don't think that's going to happen. We have Cesaro. Like, unlikely, but, there's potential there. Drew Gulak, no chance. Eric and Ivar, no chance. Madcap Moss, even though Corbin is in it, I don't think he'll get in. Let's have a look. Jinder.
Please.
I mean, it could be Jinder. It could be Shanky. Rapping Shanky.
It could be the real Slim Shanky.
Yeah. Kofi's injured. Mace.
I'd pop because I want Mace to do something because at this point he's still there.
Mansoor, unlikely. Mustafa Ali, I don't think so. Boogs, I thought about
Boogs.
I think Boogs will just be involved in the match with Shinsuke, just leading him to his inevitable
You remember
loss.
when they had Hornswoggle carry the Teddy Long flag at that one WrestleMania when he fought Lauren? Do that. Have Boogs carry the SmackDown flag or something. I don't know.
Got Ricochet. I don't think so. He's currently feuding with Ali. So Ridge Holland, I think, has a real possibility of getting into it because he hasn't debuted yet, and so they might just say, "Hey, this guy like it's similar to the Austin Theory vibes." Well, no, Austin Theory's already had matches, but hey, this is a new guy.
It'll be their excuse to remind you, hey, the Undertaker debuted at Survivor Series.
Sammy's obviously been taken out of it, so he won't be involved unless he manages to weasel his way back into it. Sheamus obviously hasn't re-debuted as of yet, so
I can honestly see it just because, hey, he's a name.
And that's it on the SmackDown side. So obviously there's always the potential for an NXT call-up, but I think that's highly unlikely. I don't see any.
Well, I mean, he's right there. He's Von Wagner. He's there.
Yeah, Von Wagner, I guess, is the main choice for that one.
Well, what about Eli Drake or LA Knight? He's tailor-made for WWE's main roster. Why is he not on the main roster?
I think that LA Knight will be out of the company soon because he's too old.
Yeah,
and they're setting this new edict now because there's been, the rumors circulate about the fact that they didn't release Timothy Thatcher or Danny Burch as of yet. So they were names that apparently at least there's circulation out there.
We're on the shot.
Yeah.
I hope that they're at least done for the year with releases because it's the holidays now and please stop.
Yeah. I mean, I would say Odyssey Jones may make sense.
I like him.
Yeah. But outside of that, I don't feel like there's anybody, unless this is one last gasp player, please stay Johnny Gargano, don't go.
I thought about it, and that wouldn't be bad. I could see anything happening, honestly, because they have shown that they have no concrete plan. It would be really cool. I know that they're just letting him do his own thing on NXT, but Tribal Chief calls up Solo Sikoa, you better run through this because if SmackDown wins, I win. If SmackDown loses, I lose. So you better make sure I don't lose. That would make so much sense, but maybe it makes too much sense.
Mm-hmm. So,
what about Walter? He's around, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's not going to be on the SmackDown brand realistically, or he's sticking around too much. So it seems like it would be an odd choice. I think the person that is in it has to be SmackDown. Can't just be a Oh, for one night only, this person's on SmackDown. But yeah, so I think it's gonna be like if it's gone to my head, I think it's gonna be Ridge Holland.
Gun to my head, I'm gonna go Sheamus.
Yeah, again, it's equally valid because, as you say, they probably don't have a plan, and they'll probably decide on it the day before the show or the day of the show, maybe even.
If we go out of Friday not knowing, that's so sick. That's sickening. Like,
and so you're back in Team Raw to get the victory here.
yeah, I think Rollins survives. I think Owens survives, and I think Lashley, because these three men shouldn't be losing, considering two of them have feuded with the WWE champion. And honestly, Lashley might be a plan B or C for Big E to defend against.
I'm gonna stick to my guns with I think Drew McIntyre will be the sole survivor for Team SmackDown.
I will say, if they do SmackDown, I think at least let Woods be on the damn team. He's going toe to toe with your champion. At least let him be part of the surviving team.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a possibility, but I just think they sometimes like to just go with like the one guy surviving, and I think they'll be Drew this year. So
I think they should add stakes that say if Raw loses, they have to lose the third hour of their show, and I think Raw should lose, so I don't have to watch 3-hour Raws anymore.
Well, that's the overarching point about this show, and that's the reason why we've kind of sped through it. We've gone through all the matches so far, but at the end of the day, this show doesn't have any consequence, any stakes attached to it, any real reason to be here other than the fact that this is what they do on Survivor Series. They put the Raw wrestlers against the SmackDown wrestlers, even though a lot of the Raw wrestlers were on the SmackDown wrestlers a couple of months ago, and all the SmackDown wrestlers are probably Raw wrestlers, and blah de blah de blah.
Listen, so, I know that I sometimes have wild fantasy booking ideas, but like, I'm not even asking for anything insane. I'm just asking, like, can you do something? You're in New York City. It is Survivor Series. Why aren't you doing anything? Like, I just don't. This feels so wrong to me. You know?
No, absolutely. I mean, it does feel like so unbelievably underwhelming, even by WWE standards, especially towards Survivor Series for the last couple of years. Like the last time they ever gave it any real attention was when they threw the NXT people into it, and that was just the anomaly of NXT that made it a lot more interesting.
And I'll give them credit. They tried last year. It's just that the thing that they tried to do was the Undertaker thing, and because that happened in front of no real people, it got over like a fart in church.
Yeah, and yeah, this year it just feels like they're doing it for the sake of doing it, and that hasn't led to any like interest, or these feuds don't feel in any way hot. Most of them feel tepid. The only one that does feel in any way interesting is Becky and Charlotte, and that's because of real life issues, not anything they've really brought up or built on TV. And so
shout out to Lana and Nia Jax, who were the total story of the Women's Survivor Series match last year and are now gone.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Braun Strowman and Keith Lee, who were on the surviving men's side for Raw and are now gone. And by the way, if Adam Pearce wanted former WWE champions on the men's team, you're literally looking at a roster that has Dolph Ziggler, AJ Styles, The Miz. There's no shortage of former champions because the belt has been bastardized for years. But yeah, like I don't understand the show.
Yeah, so we're still going to end up watching it regardless, and we'll give you our thoughts. And to be fair, I'm probably not going to be on the post show because I'm not wasting a holiday day by watching this shit. But maybe Rob will be joined by Tony at this point if Tony can drag himself away from Brazil and put on the WWE
Well, he
network.
will be back by Sunday. I would not blame him at all if he was like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then maybe you don't get a Survivor Series show.
Well, we'll get a post show put together at some point. It might just be one of the ones that we record after the fact, like on the like the Monday afterwards or whatever. We just record it in the afternoon and then get it sent up then. But if Tony's back and he's feeling up to it, you might get a live one as per usual, and Rob might be sitting in as well and give you his thoughts on this completely pointless and erroneous show. And hopefully something exciting happens. Like, at the very least, I think what we can hope for at the moment is hopefully the matches are good. That's all we can really hope for at this point.
Absolutely. Hopefully the matches are good.
Yeah, and they're not overblown by too much ridiculous booking.
And that's all we can do is hope.
Yep. So we hope that you, of course, have dropped a like on this video and hit the subscribe button. If you haven't done already, then do so now. Drop a comment below. Let us know your thoughts about this show or anything else in particular if you can't be asked to review back to this show. God knows we tried our best. We hope that you appreciate that. Other stuff, of course, we mentioned the Patreon earlier. There's other ways to support us monetarily is by going onto the merchandise shops, Redbubble, TeePublic, pick up some Smark Moment merch. That would all be greatly appreciated. Of course, check out the website, smarkoutmoment.com, all the articles, all of the features, or the weekly stuff, anything that's going on there, heel and face turn list, eventually will be updated. But check all that stuff out. Keep following those along. Keep following Smark Out Moment on Facebook and Twitter at Smark Out Moment. You can join the Mega Maniacs Facebook group as well if you're so inclined to get involved in the conversation with like-minded wrestling fans. There'll probably be a thread coming up on a Sunday for Survivor Series, so check that out if you're interested. And other things you can do is check out Fanboys Anonymous, Tony's pet project, the sister website for Smark Out Moments, anything geek culture, comics, films, TV. You'll find all of that stuff over on Fanboys Anonymous. You also find the Review to a Kill series me, Rob, and Tony put together, reviewing all of the James Bond franchise from start to finish. With
Legitimately the most fun thing ever. Like, that was a good time.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely check that out. Even if you're not a Bond fan going into it, I'm sure you'll be into it coming out of it.
Hours of your time, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're not a fan going into it, you'll be a fan coming out of it. And we do other reviews like say Austin Powers stuff, and you'll find other show reviews mainly from Rob and Tony's side as well. And speaking of Rob, what will you have going forward?
I, of course, check out Fightful, check out Fightful.com. Sean Ross Sapp, always working hard on Fightful Select and their scoops. And for me, you can follow me everywhere at DudeFelice, including on Instagram, Twitter, and twitch.tv/DudeFelice, where I am trying to build more of a following, where I stream video games. I want to get into the fantasy booking and stuff like that, but you got to build the audience first.
Absolutely. So if you haven't been following Rob yet, make sure you're hitting the follow button over on his Twitch there and checking out his streams whenever they pop up. And on my side of things, you can follow me on Twitter at Weekmeister14. As I said, check out all the stuff on smarkoutmo.com. And if you want to hit up the archives and check out either 2001 A Wrestling Odyssey or the Paul Heyman Smackdown podcast that me and Rob put together quite a while ago at this point, then check all that stuff on there. It never ages, and well, maybe it ages a little bit with some of the comments we make or stuff like that. But overall, that's just like pretty much evergreen content. So if you're interested in learning more about the post-Attitude Era and ruthless aggression stuff during those periods of time, that's the place to hit up. And yeah, that will bring this podcast to a close. So thank you very much for listening. We hope that you do endeavour to enjoy Survivor Series, and it turned out to be a much better show than we're painting it out to be right now. Are you in any way hopeful?
We talked about the blind hope, where I think maybe because it's New York, you got something like Taker or Rock. But then I think, is that enough? And the answer might honestly be no. But we'll see next time.
We'll try to we'll try to hold on to the hope up until then, as we always try to do. Try and lean on the positives. We'll be back with an episode of the Hot Tags as well before Survivor Series, and then you'll get to hear the post-show in whatever form it does take. And then we'll be back to your regularly scheduled programming with Tony Mango back on the helm. But for now, thank you all for listening again, and we'll see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.